After going 1-3 over their last 4 games, we're going to be talking about if the Chicago Bulls are still trending in the right direction. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button, just like Modest Buzelis slam dunks in games. And so in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as we are talking about if the Chicago Bulls are still trending in the right direction, even though they have gone 1-3 over their last 4 games. And so I think that this team is still trending in the right direction despite going 1-3 over their last 4 games. I think that there's several reasons why there is still a lot of confidence here with the Chicago Bulls team and just really where they're trending. And so the first point for me is that this team has been very good in the clutch. And so coming into this game against the Cleveland Cavaliers, they were 4-0. And also, too, one of the things that was mentioned on the broadcast during the game was that over the last 2 seasons here, the Bulls have been 10-3 in the clutch. And so this is a team that's definitely figuring out ways to get it done in the clutch. And so the fact that they're already 4-0 this season, it just goes into what I've been saying with this team is that they've been resilient. This is a team that does not fold. And for the most part, they don't panic and they're able to get it done. And so I think that that right there makes me believe that this team is certainly taking a step forward. I think that good teams really figure out ways to win in tight games. And for the most part, they've done that. With this Cleveland Cavaliers game, that was another story because they were up in that game. Then you have the Cavs go on that 12-0 run. Donovan Mitchell, just went off there in the second half for the Cavs. And so, the Bulls lost the game really that they shouldn't, but still they're 4-1 right now when it comes down to clutch wins. And so I think that that's one of the reasons why I still think that this team is headed in the right direction because that they're going to get in some more clutch games and they've already shown that, hey, they can get it done. And so I think that they can build off of really the confidence that they're gaining from those clutch wins. And then next, look, the player development has been there thus far for the Chicago Bulls. And I think also, too, the Bulls are showing that what they did at the end of the season is very much real. And so starting with Tre Jones, Tre Jones was terrific for this team last season. Obviously, it got cut short because he went down with the foot injury. And so you were wondering, okay, could Tre Jones come back? Could he still be this player that's impactful, on the defense and then also to the offensive end? And he absolutely has been. I mean, he's led in steals. He's also making terrific basketball plays and stuff out there, for this team that's really helping them win. And what I love about Tre Jones, just like what we saw last season, it's something to where he doesn't necessarily have to have a whole bunch of stats. And you just know that Tre Jones had an impact on the game. And so we're seeing that. And so that's carried over. And also, too, when you're talking about just player development and players taking a step forward, starting with Josh Giddey has taken a step forward, I think, offensively. I think that he's become a little bit more crafty as far as using that spin and getting to the rim. And then also, too, I think that another thing that you're seeing with him is defensively, he's certainly a lot more locked in than he was last season as well. And so he's kind of built off of that. And so you're seeing that he's taken a step forward. And Modest Buzelis, look, I know it hasn't been a huge jump, but he has shown flashes and he's showing that he is certainly getting better. And he's definitely taken a step forward from his first season. And I think that there is still a lot of runway for him. I know it's been some tough games here where he's gotten foul trouble. There's been some situations where, he had some lapses there defensively. And it wasn't just this game against the Cleveland Cavaliers, but still we're seeing some growth from these players that were on the team a season ago. And I think that they're building off of that and it's showing right now in their record. So I love that. And then next, when it comes down to identity, one of the things that this team talked about in training camp was playing better defense and being more physical. And so I think that with the addition of Isaac Okoro, you're seeing that. I think that Isaac Okoro has kind of locked in defensively. He's come in, he knows his role, and I know offensively it has been a struggle, but still just his energy, the way that he's been out there defensively, it's kind of carried throughout this team. And what I like about this team as far as just when they put something in place in training camp, so far they're showing that they're coming out and they're executing it, because the season ago, they wanted to play faster, and that's exactly what they did. And now you're seeing that next step with the offense. And so it's taken a step forward, and we're kind of at, maybe ground one with this defense. And so it's certainly a lot better than it was a season ago. And so I think that that's another reason why you have to feel confident with what you saw here. Even though that this team has gone 1-3 over their last four, you can see the foundation on both sides of the ball here. And so they do have to build. There's a lot of stuff that still needs to be fixed, but I think that there's a lot more positive than it is negative, even though they've lost these games. And then also too, lastly, I think another thing that's kind of really shown for me has been just really this strength in numbers. I think that that is certainly something that you have to feel confident about, because even if the team loses, you're still seeing multiple players that have gone into double figures. You're seeing players that, even if they're not playing a whole bunch, they've still found a way to be an impact on the game. And so Jalen Smith, I think he's taken advantage of his opportunities. Ayo Dosunmu has been locked in. He's making things happen. Kevin Huerter has made things happen. Patrick Williams off the bench as well. Like, this whole bench mob is real. And so I think that that's another reason why you have to be confident about that. And then lastly, look, you have reinforcements coming. When Coby White and Zach Collins come back, this is going to help lift this team up. And so, I think that there is just a lot of stuff that just points to this Bulls team trending in the right direction. Now, I will say this, on the flip side of that, there are some things that will have to get corrected. And so, out of all the good, there is still some stuff that needs to happen here. And so, I think the first thing that this Bulls team really needs to realize is that they're going to have to bring it every night. Like, I don't think that this is a team that they're just going to sneak up on anybody. The national media is definitely all over this team with the way that they've started and everything else. And so you got to have the right energy every night. You cannot miss some of these assignments on the defensive end. I think that that's something that we've saw in these losses. And so you have to bring the right energy. You have to get off to better starts, which is something that we've talked about really throughout the preseason. And really, you're talking about consistency there. And so I think that that's the first point, as far as stuff that will need to get cleaned up. Next, I think that the Bulls understand that they need a little bit of star power. And I think that they're going to get that with Coby White. I think that when you get into these games with the Cleveland Cavaliers and some of these other games that are going to happen in the season, now you're going to have a player that he can take over a quarter, and it's an unselfish takeover. And so I think that Coby White certainly is going to help this team kind of take a step forward. But I think that right now, they're going to need him as far as kind of, getting things together consistently and keeping things rolling. You need a guy that can get you a bucket like that. And on the flip side of him, you have the physicality situation on defense. And so I think that this team has struggled at times there with the physicality. And it's not something that you can either decide, hey, for a quarter we want to do it, a half you want to do it. No, you have to do it the entire game. Now, I do think that a player like Zach Collins is going to help that. And so this kind of goes into the identity thing. Yes, they have like a foundation, but they're still very much building on it. And I think it's something where they have to lock in on it every night. Like, you're going to have to bring that fight every night from a physical standpoint, because the Bulls, they just don't have a lot of margins for error. Everything has to be clicking. These guys have got to play hard in order to get these wins. And so, lastly, just kind of before we leave and just get out of the video, I want to say this, is that I think that the team is heading in the right direction, even with the losses. But I think that also, too, for the long term, this team is really heading in the right direction, because the bottom line is that it's a marathon and it's not a sprint. And this team at this point in time, they are fifth in the Eastern Conference. There's still a lot of basketball left, or fourth in the Eastern Conference, I'm sorry, at the time of this recording. So there's still a lot of basketball left. And I think that when you look at just the way that this team is constructed, and just really AK's plan where he wanted to go younger, he wanted to have a deep team, you're starting to see that. And I think that also, too, with Billy Donovan, he's forced to play these players. And so I think a lot of players that maybe we had, question marks and stuff about, like we're finding out about them and they're responding. And so that's a good thing too as well. And so I like just really where things are going. I think that this team is going to turn some stuff around. Yes, they have a tough game coming up here Monday against the San Antonio Spurs, but I expect for this team to be right there in the game, just like they've been in all the games. Even though they've taken some losses here, you can tell that this team has been locked in. They're fighting, they're resilient, everything else. And this team has certainly taken a step forward from that team last season. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking with this Chicago Bulls team. Do you think that, yes, there's still a lot of confidence here, even though they have gone on a little bit of a losing streak after starting out 5-0? Are you okay too with just really the long-term direction so far? I do know that, yes, this team will still need to make some adjustments, with personnel as far as getting, more physical and everything else. They still need to figure out some other stuff, for the long-term build, but still it looks like that they're going in the right direction. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. And as we always say, go Bulls, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.